Now, I would be remiss if I did not take a moment and acknowledge some very special individuals that are on the dais here today with me. It's not often that we get to see history in the making, and today we have two of my predecessors here on the stage here joining us today at Edward Waters. And so we want to take this opportunity to recognize three of our living former presidents for their commitment to not only the field of higher education, but their leadership to Edward Waters College. First, Dr. Jimmy R. Jenkins Sr. And let me just share, Dr. Jenkins and his wife are going to be here today. That was your special surprise, Ms. Vereen. They were going to be here today, and something came up at the last minute, but he sends his regrets, but sends his regards to all of the Edward Waters College community. But Dr. Jimmy R. Jenkins Sr. served as the 26th president of Edward Waters College. Under Dr. Jenkins' administration from 1997 to 2005, the college expanded its faculty and broke ground on its first new building in decades, while reducing its debt from $8.5 million to $500,000 in 3 years, and growing its enrollment from 300 students to nearly 1,300 students. In fact, Edward Waters, this building is named in tribute of Dr. Jenkins as a tribute to his tremendous progress and the progress made under his leadership. He is most known for his mantra, when you look to the northeast and you see a rising star, that star is called Edward Waters College. Currently, Dr. Jenkins serves as the 12th president of Livingstone College, where he resides with his wife, Dr. Felice Moore Jenkins, in Salisbury, North Carolina. Let's give him a round of applause all the way from Jacksonville, and let him hear it all the way up in Salisbury, North Carolina. Dr. Jenkins, we honor you today. Dr. Claudette H. Williams, would you please stand? Dr. Claudette Williams. Dr. Claudette Williams made history as the 28th president of Edward Waters College. She holds the distinct honor of being appointed the first, let me say it again, the first female president of this illustrious institution. Under her administration from 2007 to 2010, the institution received a historic 7-figure contribution from CEX CEO Chair and President Michael Ward, establishing the relationship that still exists today between Michael Ward and Edward Waters. This $1 million donation helped with making infrastructure repairs, installing air conditioning in residential facilities, providing new uniforms and instruments for the EWC band, and most importantly, providing much-needed student scholarships. Can I get an amen, students? After her distinguished tenure at EWC, Dr. Williams joined the Southern Association for Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges as a vice president. She and her husband, Valton, reside in Georgia, where she continues her love and support of HBCUs. Let's applaud Dr. Claudette H. Williams. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for being here today. This person needs no introduction to this community, but I'm going to try anyhow. Dr. Nathaniel Glover. Would you please stand, Dr. Glover? Dr. Nathaniel Glover was appointed as the 29th president of Edward Waters College. Prior to his appointment as president, he held the distinct honor of being the first, I'm going to say it again, we have a trend here, the first African-American sheriff in the state of Florida elected since Reconstruction. During his tenure from 2010 to 2018 as president of Edward Waters, the institution saw significant infrastructural, physical, and economic growth. According to Dr. Glover, his most impactful achievement would be the restoration of support from this community and the reaffirmation of accreditation with no feedback from the accrediting agency SACS COC. He was principally responsible for brokering the multi-million-dollar initial funding partnership between EWC and the Jacksonville City Council, which facilitated the renovation of the former Tiger Landing residential facility renamed Richardson Hall, and the construction of the community field and stadium, which will be dedicated later this summer. He is also responsible for the construction of the EWC Center for Criminal Justice and Forensic Science and JSO Zone 5 substation, among other notable successes. Dr. Glover currently resides still here in his native home of Jacksonville with his wife, Doris, where he continues to participate in social and educational activism and agency building. Please give a round of applause again to Dr. Nathaniel Glover. Now, towards that end, if you will indulge me for just a brief moment, the sheer weightiness of this tremendous historicity of today's forthcoming announcement beckons me to briefly chronicle, for the benefit of those gathered, the genesis and preceding progeny of the Edward Waters story. You see, recently it's become popular, and even in some circles, Bishop, apropos, to whitewash the history of our country and deodorize the foul and putrid stench that accompanied the African-American experience then and still lingers as it concerns the origins and preceding way of the African-American in these United States. And as such, I must unabashedly pronounce that you'll find no such whitewashing or deodorizing antiperspirant version of the story here today. There will be no refuge for anyone's unwillingness or cowardice today towards fully acknowledging, appreciating, and affirming the accurate account of history as in the spirit of John 8:32, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And so history teaches us that when the Civil War ended in 1865 and the reunited nation entered upon the Reconstruction period, the battle over the adoption and implementation of the 13th and 14th Amendment, as well as the Civil Rights Act of 1866, found our country in a state of embattlement and bitterness that lasted more than a century. Hence, Edward Waters College was literally born amid the travail and suffering which followed in the wake of the war between the states. When African Americans found themselves adrift among the swirling current of a swiftly changing social order, they rejoiced in the liberty they now knew. Yet they found themselves hard-pressed to fulfill the responsibilities demanded of them by the post-war South. For it was soon imposed upon them a new kind of servitude, a slavery by another name, as world-renowned author Douglas Blackman called it in his Pulitzer-winning signature work. A new, nefariously conceived condition of slavery that was economic, political, and social, and equally insidious in its operation. There was no equality for them, no guarantee of civil or even human rights. And you see, the most galling problem for these newly liberated African Americans was their nearly universal illiteracy. They had been reared by slaveholders who, before 1866, had excused themselves from providing an education for their slaves and relied upon laws which, under penalty of fines and imprisonment, forbade the teaching of African American men and women. Indeed, it was the bleak and forbidding prospect of continuing ignorance and cultural barrenness among the state of Florida's African-American populace that impelled the African Methodist Episcopal Church to found a school in Jacksonville, where it was universally and gratefully welcomed, as it was the only single source of substantial education available to blacks in the entire state of Florida. Again, this school was the only single educational source for black students in this entire state. Somebody somewhere said something about a rat-led FAMU. Nope, 1887, nearly 2 decades behind as usual. Then you've heard about some feline cats, namely a Florida Memorial lion or a Bethune wildcat, but nope, they're all Johnny-come-latelys too, coming on the scene in 1879 and 1904, respectively. So let's not whitewash it. As Christians, we believe the word, and so today we're going to help some of our brothers and sisters know the truth, such that that truth can help make them free. So for the edification of everyone under the sound of my voice, you should know that Edward Waters was not created, nor has it ever functioned or operated out of an exclusionary spirit of separation and discrimination with aims toward degradation, like the so-called flagship majority higher educational institutions in our state, and even some here locally in Jacksonville. But we're gonna leave that for another day. But conversely, Edward Waters was birthed out of an overwhelming abundance of necessity to serve and uplift a downtrodden, disaffected, and disenfranchised, hurting people. Yes, it was the independent, reverent, and practical attitude and overwhelming spirit of service to mankind, born in the spirit of the AME Church and its first bishop, Bishop Richard Allen, who reconciled that it was incumbent that they extend their work from Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, and Ohio to the state of Florida, where the Reverend William G. Stewart was appointed as pastor for the state in 1866, and where he joined hands with the Reverend Charles Pierce, who had come from Canada as an elder to propagate the faith, the first fruit of which was the planning and formation for a school to educate African Americans right here in Florida. First chartered by the state legislature as Brown Theological Institute in 1872, just up the road in Live Oak, Florida, and later as East Florida Scientific and Divinity School in 1883 here in Jacksonville, leading to March of 1892 when a petition was circulated, Bishop, amongst the members of the AME Florida Conference to choose a more appropriate name. And thus the name Edward Waters emerged in recognition of the third bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. In 1901, the entire city of Jacksonville destroyed by fire, and our entire school was burned to ashes. Post the fire, and a 600-acre tract of land in South Jacksonville was actually originally given to the school, but because of a lack of funds, the building project was never initiated. But how many of you all can thank God for a board of trustees? But then the board of trustees purchased a parcel of land on Kings Road in 1904, which we know serves as this present site. From that time, Edward Waters, like many institutions, has seen its ebbs and flows, but has always and at every turn persisted, surviving the earlier 20th century and the formidable challenges wrought by the Great Depression of the 1930s, to earning its initial accreditation as a junior college from the then Southern Association of Colleges and Secondary Schools in 1955, and finally earning authorization as a four-year baccalaureate degree granting institution in 1979, accredited by SACS. As a leading agent for change in Jacksonville and a producer of stalwart local, national, and international leaders, Edward Waters and its students were at the forefront of the civil rights activism in this city in the 1960s and the 1970s. And through the last portion of the 20th century and on into the new millennium, our school has experienced phenomenal growth and development and has continued to produce literally thousands upon thousands of distinguished graduates who are making impactful marks upon the world. Graduates like